Hello everybody and welcome back to the Unite channel. My name is Dominic Archer and in this video I'm going to give you some tips and some advice when it comes to student housing after your first year accommodation. Let's get started. Okay, so I've been approached by Unite to make a video on student housing as I'm a third year student now and I've had 2 years of experience outside of first year accommodation. So accommodation that's either provided on campus or provided in the city centre but run by the university and local companies that are working with them. Unite being a prime example of that. And when I was approached about making a video about this topic, I thought it would be a really good thing to make because while I was in first year, I had zero idea what to do when it came to booking a viewing, contacting a landlord, and God forbid signing a contract. It felt like I was going to sign my life away or something like that, but it's literally nothing like that at all. It's a lot more simple and a lot more of a relaxing kind of process than you might actually think. And now, as I've had about 2 years worth of experience living in accommodation outside of university, I feel more qualified to talk about this subject with you guys, so you guys can get your foot in the door when it comes to booking a house and getting one in the bag really early on, because it's getting to that point where people should be doing that as houses go very, very quickly, and trying to find one when it's around April or May time is almost impossible. So the sooner you get it done, the sooner you take this advice on board, the better. So let's start with the all-important questions: where, when, and how. I'm guessing when and how are the same in that area, but where do I find the houses, when and how do I do it? So the where element, where to go to find houses. I thought when I was in first year that I'd have to physically go into town, go into an estate agent that specialises in student accommodation and actually speak to somebody face to face, where actually you can do it all from here, your laptop or even your phone. It's so easy to do. So my best advice is to go onto Rightmove, and specifically Rightmove Students. Rightmove Students functions exactly the same as Rightmove would, except it shows student accommodation instead of other flats which are like around £2,000 or something like that. It helps you narrow down what best student accommodation to go for. It gives you price ranges, bedroom ranges, and you can type in a specific location or your local postcode and it will show you accommodation that's within that vicinity. And it's all from a laptop, phone or tablet. It's so easy to do, and you can contact landlords right on that website as well, so you don't have to go through the faff of finding a name, Googling it, finding an estate agent, and then doing it that way. You can literally contact them through the website as well, which I find really, really handy. And to book a viewing, all you have to do is find that information on the website that I just said and just have a phone call or have an email and just have a chat, and then book a date with your selection of housemates that you want to move in with, and boom, there you go. You've done a viewing or multiple viewings. There is no set amount when it comes to viewings. You can literally book as many as you want. Me and my housemates had about 5 or 6 houses lined up before we settled on this one. So please do not worry about booking too many viewings. The more you book, the better choices you have and the more you can pick from. You're just not settled on one, which can be quite stressful if you don't end up liking that house. When it comes to when you should book a viewing, it should be as soon as you can, or as soon as you've found the housemates that you want to live with for the next year or 2 years or so. I would not recommend doing it so early on, so around September or October time, or as late as April or May, because around that time you're going to be super stressed out to try and find a place, or you might not end up liking the housemates that you've chosen or the house that you've picked. So maybe around November or December time is a good time to book viewings. When it comes to picking the amount of housemates you want to live with, really there's no set amount. You can have as many as 2 up to about 10, I think. That's the maximum that they offer in this area alone. I'd stick with a middle ground, so anything from 4 to 7 people, as that's the amount that most first year students are used to living with. For example, I lived with about 8 people last year, and I think around my block there were up to about 10 people in a house. So I'm used to living with large amounts of people with diverse personalities in a big space, whereas most other accommodations are more confined spaces and they're used to a max of 4 to 5 people. So really it ranges depending on which accommodation you lived in first year and the people that you lived with. Just please make sure that when you're booking a viewing so early on that you are solid when it comes to your choice of housemates, because if you book a viewing, sign contracts and everything with the set people that you've chosen so early on and you end up not liking them or getting on with them, you're going to be in a spot of bother. You're going to either want to move out of that house as soon as possible and have to go through the faff of finding a new place, or you're going to end up moving into that house and end up arguing all the time, which isn't fair on your other housemates and on you especially. So please make sure that your choice of housemates, whatever number it is right for you and for everybody else. Okay, so you've booked a viewing or viewings, you have multiple houses, and you're at one of them right now. What to look out for. That is one of the key things to do when you are looking around a house for the very first time. So while I refer to my book, let me just list through the basic things to look out for when at house viewings. So to look out for cracks, dents, the condition of the furniture or the furnishings, look out for damp and mold, storage, so bedroom or kitchen, the street in general, if it's busy or quiet, and if there are any parking spaces around. Those were the key things that we were looking out for, because if those things had all green lights, we would go for that house straight away. If there were some other red lights, we'd possibly go for that house, maybe not, or look around the place. And if they were all duds, all red lights, then absolutely not. While you're at the houses, it's important to ask the residents or the landlord as many questions as you possibly can, just so you can get a better understanding of the house that you're living in, the street you're living on, and the landlords that you're working with for the next year or 2 years or something like that. So, while I refer to my book again, these are the questions that I've written down that I remember asking the landlord and residents while I was looking through my first few viewings. So, this is aimed at the residents. What are the landlords like? And they could be as honest or as brutally honest as they possibly can, because it's good to know what they're like right off the bat. No sugarcoating anything, because you need to know who you're sending this amount of money to every single month, and especially with your deposit as well. So it's really good to know that. And it's also good to know if they are relatively good when it comes to repairing things when they come about, sorting things out, such as, I don't know, if you have a rat infestation, if they can sort it out quickly. It's good to know things like that. This is now aimed at the landlord, and it can be at the residents as well, but when was the last refurbishment? So you know how well upkept the house is and how touched up it is. So this could be anything from painting the walls, replacing the carpets, deep thorough cleanings, dustings, changing the pipe work, the electronics, that kind of thing. So you want to know how well upkept the house is. A general question for the landlord and the residents: how much is the deposit and when would it be due for? So this is good to know right away, because your deposit is basically you securing the house down and fending off any other students that may want to come looking at the house. Once your deposit is handed in, your house is then your house, basically. And to know when it's due for. So students, it's a common conception that we don't have a lot of money, and it's true. We need to plan things like a house deposit, which is a lot of money, way in advance, so we can secure that to one side and then learn to survive without that set amount of money till like next term when we get our next loan in. Or if you have a job in first year, don't know why you would, but if you had a job in first year, to know when your next payday is, so you can then wait out until that next payday. So it's good to know when your deposit is due for, and they tell you that right off the bat anyway, but if you don't, that's a good question to ask. What is the soonest date we could all move in by? This was a very important question for me in particular, because I live about 3.5 hours by train from here, which is ridiculous. Sometimes it's about 2.5, sometimes it's 4 hours. It's crazy. And I had a lot of stuff in first year, so to even comprehend that I might have to lug all of my first year possessions back and forth on so many train journeys, which is A, expensive, and B, exhausting, that was just unfathomable. I did not want to think about that, because that would just stress me out so much. So to know that I could move in here just before I had to move out of my first year accommodation was amazing, because I could dump a lot of my less important stuff here, keep it here locked away under lock and key, close the blinds and stuff, and then take back the really important stuff, and then come back here as of when and keep adding stuff here or taking stuff away. It was just so good to know that. And over the summer, if you and your mates or just yourself fancy a trip away, where better than a house that you have in a beautiful city that you're already paying rent for, so you may as well put it to some good use. That was a good thing to know as well. And another point, if you end up getting a summer job in your local city where your student house is based, you have a place to live. You don't have to pay for a B&B or a hotel or anything like that, so that's also really good to keep in mind. And the final thing I have here is regarding parking spaces, which for me, I don't drive. I like to walk and get the bus to places, so it wasn't really relevant to me. But to my housemates, all but 2, including myself, have cars, and they drive home a lot and back here, or drive up and down from uni or back and forth from town. So it was important to know that they had any parking spaces near the house that they could park in, that were all free as well. So it saves them having parking permit costs, which I think if you're a first year and you have a car, you need to pay for a parking permit. So that's another really important thing to ask, whether it's relevant to you or not. I really hope that the tips and advice that I gave you guys was somewhat helpful and that it helped you get your foot in the door when it comes to booking student accommodation. I have a YouTube channel, which I will leave a link for at the end of this video. I made a video recently on there. You're more than welcome to go check that out. I make some rather cinematic stuff and I'm experimenting with some new camera angles and editing techniques and stuff like that. So I'd really appreciate it if you go and check that out. If not, that's perfectly fine. Just make sure that you subscribe to this channel for some more helpful student advice and leave a like down below if this video really helped you out. And if you want to know more stuff when it comes to student accommodation or about uni life in general from a third year perspective, please contact me on my personal email in the description down below. Have a great day, guys, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care, and bye-bye for now.